Down at the very bottom of the world, in the most hostile place on Earth, Antarctica, a new chapter is being written. We're talking about a place where it hits minus 45 degrees, where 100-kilometer-an-hour winds are just a normal Tuesday. In this vast white wilderness, just surviving is a victory. But one nation is doing a whole lot more than just surviving. It's conquering. You see, a massive shift is happening right now, quietly, at the South Pole. While the traditional powers of the world are kind of pulling back, tangled up in budget cuts and aging tech, China is rising to become the undisputed dominant polar power. We're talking about technology that shatters records, incredible buildings that go up in weeks, and a strategic vision that's looking decades down the road. This is nothing short of a masterclass in how to establish dominance. Just look at this headline for a moment from Global Times. This is the news behind today's video. China sets new record with 3,413-meter hot water drilling in Antarctic Subglacial Lake. With that said, let's go straight to the intro. The algorithm buries channels that show the truth like mine every single day. The only thing that fights back is you. One like, one subscribe, turn on the bell icon. That's how the truth about China survives on YouTube. Don't let it disappear. Thank you very much. So how exactly are they pulling this off? Well, let's start with an engineering feat that absolutely floored the scientific community. Back in February 2026, the Chinese 42nd Antarctic expedition did something that many thought was pretty much impossible. 3,413 meters. Let that sink in for a second. That is over 3 kilometers of solid ice they just punched right through. They didn't just nudge past the old international record, they completely obliterated it. The previous Western record was 2,540 meters. China beat that by almost a full kilometer. This is a game-changing achievement, one that puts China at the absolute forefront of polar science, practically overnight. And how they did it is maybe even more revolutionary. This wasn't some slow, grinding mechanical drill. No. China used a pioneering hot water drilling technology. Imagine high-pressure jets of almost boiling water that can melt through a kilometer of ice in a single day. The old way, that could take an entire season. And it's also green. They use high-purity melted snow, which means these pristine subglacial environments, lakes that have been buried for millions of years, stay completely free of chemical contamination. This is a massive leap forward. But you know, amazing tech like that needs a home. It needs a base of operations. So let's look at the actual infrastructure China's building, and you'll see how it all fits into a continent-spanning empire. And it starts with their latest masterpiece. Take a look at this. This is the Qinling Station. It just opened in early 2024, and it looks like something straight out of a sci-fi blockbuster. Its unique shape is actually inspired by the Southern Cross constellation, so it's not just a building, it's a statement. It's a futuristic fortress put together in one of the most brutal environments on the planet. And the engineering behind it, it's a total masterstroke. They used a prefabricated modular system, which means Chinese teams put the whole main steel framework together in under 30 days. And they did this while battling these ferocious katabatic winds. That's basically dense, cold air that gravity just yanks down a slope at hurricane speeds. And what's more, about 60% of its power comes from a cutting-edge microgrid, using wind, solar, and hydrogen. It's fast, it's smart, and it's sustainable. But Qinling is just the newest piece of a much bigger puzzle. China now has a whole network of 5 stations, all strategically placed across the continent. You've got the Great Wall Station on the coast, and you go all the way to Kunlun at Dome Argus, the highest point on the ice sheet. Each base has a specific job, creating this powerful logistical and scientific web that gives them coverage over the entire continent. And they are not stopping, not even close. Plans are already moving for a 6th station, and its location is just pure strategic genius. It's slated for a place called Cox Point in Marie Birdland. Now, what's so important about that? It's the only sector of Antarctica that is still unclaimed by any nation. By planting a flag there, China's making sure it has a right to speak, a seat at the table in any future discussions about the region. But here's the thing. China's incredible expansion is really only half the story. The other half is about the retreat of the traditional Western powers. A 54% cut, that was a proposed budget cut for the U.S. National Science Foundation's polar programs in 2025. I mean, just think about that. While China's building new runways and launching state-of-the-art ships, the U.S. is canceling projects and hitting pause on fieldwork. The contrast really could not be any more stark. And this contrast has led to what a lot of analysts are now calling the Icebreaker gap. The US is getting by with a single aging heavy icebreaker. Meanwhile, China has a growing modern fleet. They have the domestically built Qilin 2, a brand new deep-sea vessel. And they're even developing the world's largest amphibious aircraft, which could literally change the entire game of polar logistics. And China is not doing this all on its own. We're seeing what's being called an active new phase of really close collaboration between China and Russia. They're coordinating their stations. They're planning to share a logistics hub. They're working on joint drilling projects. This friendshoring of polar activities is creating a pretty formidable alternative to the old Western-led order. So, what is the grand strategy here? What is this all really about? Because it's not just about science. These stations, this incredible technology, it is all part of a much bigger geopolitical master plan. Okay, so here's the crucial part. These stations aren't just for studying penguins and ice cores. They're absolutely critical nodes for China's Beidou navigation network. That's their version of GPS, and in many ways, it's superior. By putting ground reference stations at these super high southern latitudes, China massively boosts the accuracy of its global positioning for everything from your civilian cell phone signal to highly advanced military applications. It's a classic dual-use strategy, and this whole strategy is building towards one single critical date on the calendar, the year 2048. Why then? Well, that's the year that the Madrid Protocol, that's the international treaty that bans mining for mineral resources in Antarctica, can be reviewed. So by mapping the seabed now and by having the biggest physical footprint on the continent, China's making sure it will be in the strongest possible position when that conversation starts. It's simple. Presence equals power. So when you put all the pieces together, the record-smashing technology, the futuristic bases, the strategic alliances, and that long-term vision, it all points to one single undeniable conclusion. A fundamental shift in the global polar order isn't on its way. It's already happened. The era of Western-led exceptionalism in Antarctica, it's over. The data's clear. China has used its industrial power and its technological brilliance to build a presence at the pole that is, frankly, light years ahead of everyone else. From the deep, frozen secrets under the ice to the star-shaped towers of Qinling, a new reality has been built on the ice. Which, of course, leaves us with one final and pretty provocative question. As the ice shifts and these new flags get planted, is Antarctica becoming the new front line in the battle for global dominance? The race for the frozen continent isn't some far-off possibility. All the evidence suggests it's happening right now. The only question is, who's going to win?